Hello, everyone. My name is Jaron Kelly. I'm one of the partners here at Kelly and Grant, PA. We're a full-service real estate law firm located in South Florida, and we service the entire state of Florida. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm joined by Larry Mastropieri. Larry is with the Mastropieri Group, and Larry is a very successful investor, real estate investor, and he is also a good friend of mine. We've worked together for a number of years now, and one of the reasons I wanted to have an interview with Larry today is that we've had a lot of discussions on real estate, both regarding clients' properties as well as we're both investors ourselves, and a lot of our discussions have had some really great content in them. And so I just wanted to have this discussion here. I'm really looking forward to it, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it as well.
Appreciate it. Good. Excellent. Well, let's talk about some of the topics that we're going to discuss today, and I'd like to go over with you an overview of them. First of all, we'll talk about building a strong team. You have an extremely strong team that you've put together with your real estate practice and your brokerage. And I want to discuss that and how that got put together and some of the challenges that you've faced and overcome. We'll talk about some of our multifamily portfolios, mainly yours, but since I also have one as well, we can have a discussion about that. And then want to talk about the state of the economy, what you're seeing out there right now as far as is the economy good? Is it bad? How's real estate doing in South Florida? And where you think that we're going from here. So that's kind of an overview of where we're going to go. Let's dive right into it. Can you give the audience a quick summary of your background and your journey to becoming a successful realtor?
Yeah, sure. So I am by schooling a mechanical engineer, and I have a master's in business as well. And I started in the mechanical engineering world. I was a engineer for waste management for a period of time, and then also General Electric, and I supported power plants across Florida and the Caribbean. And during that time, I also had my real estate license. So I spent a bit of time in the real estate space prior to becoming a full-time real estate broker. But I got my license primarily to buy investment real estate. So I started buying investment real estate with a friend / now business partner of mine. Early on, we bought some duplexes, and we learned a lot in the early 2010 to 2015 era before I became a full-time real estate agent. Made a lot of mistakes buying real estate, but fortunately, everything was cheap at that time. So in hindsight, it was cheap. We didn't know that at the time. And fortunately, so those mistakes were covered up by just like great growth in the market.
Appreciation of real estate, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we learned a lot during that period of time. I realized I really loved real estate, investing specifically, and I was spending more time doing brokerage work while I was an engineer. So eventually, I made the decision to move over to being a real estate broker full time, so I could focus on buying real estate and also brokering real estate. And I felt like I would have an advantage there if I combined those two things, because I felt like I was splitting my time between being an engineer, which was taking like 60 to 80 hours a week of my time when working for GE, and so I felt like if I took that time and invested it into brokering real estate, I'd have a better skill set at buying and investing in real estate. And so in 2018 is when I went full time into being a real estate broker. And the rest is history. Now we've built a team, and we're aggressively trying to build the brokerage, aggressively trying to build our real estate investment portfolio. And now I'd say with my business partner, we have about 86 apartments here in the Palm Beach County and some in the St. Lucie County market.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, that was a huge leap of faith to go from a really stable job with an incredible company, GE. Yes, a lot of work, a lot of hours, but you really could have continued on that trajectory, growing with the company, getting to a higher position, maybe ending your career with that company, which a lot of people do. That would be the safe method. Not that it was an easy way to go, but you took the leap of faith, and that's amazing. So kudos to you.
That was a really hard decision, right? So that took in order to do that took a little motivation from my bosses at GE and other things, because I had a great team at General Electric. It was amazing. I really enjoyed that job, that career, but when I looked at what I wanted to do with my life, I just realized there's a cap to a degree in the corporate world, and you really have to kind of climb that corporate ladder. And you don't have, just like anything, you don't have a guarantee that you're going to get to where you want to get, because there is politics involved in that, as well as just risks associated with having the opportunities, whether there's a spot for you in the next position and how long it's going to take you to get there, et cetera. So there's risks associated with that. And also, like, while you think about a career in real estate where you're an entrepreneur, and you think like, oh, I might not make an income that I want as an entrepreneur, you also can quickly end up in that same situation in a corporation, right? You could lose your job for whatever reason, something stupid, et cetera. So I kind of now think about it as, while being an entrepreneur has more risks to a degree, there's more upside. But when working for a corporation, you still have a substantial amount of risks that you're involved in. You get that stable income while you're there, but that could go away too very easily. So
Sure.
For example, in the pandemic, GE I think cut employees' income by almost 20% that year.
Wow.
So like while that happened for a moment, I started as a real estate broker in 2018. Quickly we were in the pandemic, right? Right after that.
Within 2 years.
Yep. And at that moment, we weren't selling real estate for a month, 2 months, right? And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I just made this move. And
What a disastrous decision.
what a disaster. And then the market lit up, right? And during that time, we worked those 2 months for like the marketing side of the business, right? So we focused on that, and when we came out of those 2 months of, call it like quarantine, we started working very quickly.
And then the real estate market exploded, and the rest is history. So, 2021 and 2022 were pretty banner record years, I would say, for most everyone in the industry,
But it
at
was a
least here
scary
in
moment.
Florida, for sure. And it was scary for a little while, so totally get that.
And then GE cut their employee salaries, right? And so like then it was like, wow, I'm doing much better than I would have been if I was in a.
So looking back, you made the right decision, taking that leap of faith.
For me personally, I made the right decision because of who I am, and this isn't for everyone. There's a lot of stress involved in running your own company and all those things. So
For sure. And running our own law firm, I know we talk about this a lot. One of the common themes that we have is you really need to be self-motivated. You need to have a somewhat of a fire underneath you. Not everyone has that. Some people want to do a 40-hour work week job, and that's very respectable. That's fine. But have you found that that's one of the skills that you have, or I wouldn't call it a skill, but it's just a personality trait, is to be self-motivated?
For sure. I think what excites me about doing our own thing here and building our own real estate brokerage is that we can decide on what we want to do. Do we want to move fast at building a YouTube channel, as an example, because now we feel like this is the right decision? Whereas at GE, I may have found some technology that I liked and wanted to implement in the business, and that took maybe months, if not years, to convince and build a business plan so that way GE execs would agree to move forward with this project. Whereas right now,
you could just execute on it right away.
go.
You make the decision, let's do it, you get your team together, and you're moving along.
and so that psychs me up in the morning, right?
That's good. Yeah, you don't have to deal with the internal politics and all the red tape involved in a big organization. That's great. So can you give us a sense of the volume of transactions and number of transactions in 2021 and 2022, just so people understand who are watching the video, the team that you put together and what type of volume that you're doing?
Yeah, so sales volume is typically how a real estate broker will discuss how much business they've done. So we sold about 80 million plus in 2022, and just a little bit below that in 2021.
It's very impressive, yeah.
Target this year is to do about the same, if not more. We're growing the team, and we have plans to keep killing it.
That's extremely impressive, especially being that you just got into the business in 2018. I mean, that's major kudos to you. So one of the things that you've done, obviously, is you put a good team together. Can you describe that? What does that team look like?
Yeah, so my mom and I are called business partners. I'm the broker owner of Florida Homes, and my mom is a strong listing agent. So that's been very helpful. So her and I work hand in hand together to drive a handful of the business. I spend time on the technology side. She spends time more so on the old school way of generating business, which might look like mailers and door knocking and things of that nature.
Okay.
And so her and I work together. We have one buyer's agent and field service rep, call him, that's on our squad, and then we have Will here, who is basically business development and operations. I'd say a combination of both. We have a full-time transaction coordinator and listing concierge. So she manages all our transactions on the back end.
And that's your sister, correct?
That's my sister.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
cool.
correct. So, and then she manages a team of 2 virtual assistants who work in the Philippines, and they're like instrumental. They've been with us for 2 years-ish now on the team, and they're like their family. They're part of the team as well. And then we have one cold caller who helps us kind of follow up with clients that need to be followed up with, or leads that follow up that need to be followed up with. And also he does what we call circle prospecting, which is kind of calling the neighborhood when we list something and seeing if anybody wants to buy the specific property and or wants to sell their listing, right? And then we have a virtual assistant that helps him kind of find phone numbers and make contact with said leads that he's trying to call on. And then to follow up that, we have a video editor, a full-time video editor that helps us generate the content for our social media channels and our video content. And that's a new business venture in the past, call it 6 to 8 months. John's new to the team, and that's an example of why I love this, because we can move fast. We decided this is something we want to focus on and we want to really make a pillar of our business. So we just executed. We went and hired the guy we like, that we wanted, and now we're doing it. We're getting after it.
That's very impressive.
That's the business as a whole.
Yeah, very impressive. Thank you for breaking that down for us. One comment that I have is that the other real estate teams that we've worked with and come across over the years here, especially in South Florida or other parts of Florida, mostly, I would say, seem to have a lot of other agents. There'll be, let's say, a team leader who's an agent, and then let's say there'll be 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 8, sometimes 10 agents under them, which is great, and that's a wonderful way to structure a team. It seems like you've structured your team a little differently, where you have mostly, let's call them employees. Some could be 1099 contractors, but they're not. It sounds like you really only have, besides your mother and yourself, who are the broker, and then your mother's your partner. She's also an agent. You have maybe one other true full-time agent, and the rest are driving leads in, support staff, doing all those things that are really lead generation roles. And then, of course, along with that, transactional coordination roles. Is that correct? Am I?
Yeah, and so that was a decision we made early on to kind of go that route. We felt like Joy and I, my mom and I, could be the main points of contact for everyone we work with, so we give a more intimate experience to our sellers and buyers. So that's great. We've kind of hit our limit on that to a degree. We did about 150 transactions or more last year, and I negotiated personally 90+% of those transactions. I mean, that's me negotiating and closing a deal every 3 days, something like that, or less, right? So yeah,
Very busy to be running a team and then also doing the negotiations and closing the transactions or listing appointments or whatever that entails.
and I personally
That's quite busy.
and I personally enjoy that. Like, I enjoy the negotiation piece and getting the deals done. I think I have a skill set in that. I learned a lot of that from training at General Electric, because I was not just a technical engineer. I was also running the sales for my area. Okay. So I've had a lot of experience doing that, and I really enjoy it. But now we're at a point where, in order to like manage the business and grow the business, plus service all the clients well, we need to put other people in place to do that. So
what's another position that you're looking for example? How do you see your team growing, moving from here? What's the next step?
To your point, we need maybe another, if not more than one, buyer/listing agent that's commission-based, that's out there working to get business, helping me service the business we have. That's our core focus right now.
Okay. Well, if anyone's out there that's an agent and looking to join a great team, make sure to reach out to us. But yeah, it sounds like you put a really impressive team together. It's not even sounds like. I'll vouch for that, being that we do the majority of your closings where your clients have the ability to select the closing agent. The volume that you produce is it's legit. It's very significant. So again, kudos to you and Joy for putting that together and your family. So you work with your mother, who's your business partner, and then also your sister, who runs the transaction side of the business. Why don't you tell the audience, some of the great advantages, but also some of the challenges that come along with working with family and loved ones. Yeah.
I'd say the advantage to working with your family is that there's this strong sense of loyalty and commitment to the success beyond maybe what you would get from another employee, right? Mm-hmm. So with that comes passion. Mm-hmm. All of us have passion in this. We're all in it. We all really care about it. Mm-hmm. So when things are working really well and things are going going the passion is all positive, right?
Sure,
and so that's good. Right. And
it makes Thanksgiving dinners really fun,
right, exactly.
When everything's working well.
But the reality is business, you're constantly dealing with things, with problems and
sure.
struggles and things you need to solve. So that also comes with passion, and all parties feel that they have an opinion on these things, and sometimes that becomes a very passionate discussion. I'd say though, we work really, really well together. We're probably the exception to the norm here. Okay. Like my mom and I, like we don't argue ever. Like that's not even a thing. It's not even an issue whatsoever. Yeah. So yes, so we're pretty good with all that. Like there's no problem.
Bet. Yeah. And I bet the communication is a bit different than working with someone who someone who's not a family member, maybe an employer-employee relationship, where they're going to be more muted in their feelings about certain things that you're doing, which can be good and bad. Certainly, if you're the owner of the business and you're giving a certain direction and you want to move a certain way, you want the team to move with you and to buy into that. But on the other hand, you want the feedback, and you don't want people to be scared to bring those concerns that they have or challenges that they're facing to you. But I guess with family members, they're probably going to tell you how it is or how they're feeling.
You're going to get it.
There's no turning it off at 5 p.m.
Totally,
yeah.
You're going to get it no matter what.
Yeah.
I think also what makes us work really well is there's a level of respect between all of us, and we all have a similar work ethic. Okay. So that I think is huge too, because we all work a ridiculous amount, more than I ever worked for my GE job, and I thought I was working a lot then. Yeah. So yeah, I think that mutual level of work ethic and the level of respect, and we have a good hierarchy. Everybody kind of falls in place to where they and does their role.
That's great.
So
yeah. Tell us about your lead generation techniques. How did you get to doing $80+ million last year? Where are those leads coming from? What successes have you had with lead generation? What failures have you had?
Sure. I would say we try so much, right? So there's stuff we've tried and failed at, or tried and just didn't work. Mm-hmm. And we try to put in place systems that when we try something, we test it to its fullest and decide if it works or doesn't work for us. It might work really well in other markets, but it just maybe doesn't work for our specific market and or our specific clientele base, right? Mm-hmm. So how we got here, I would say Joy, my mom, she is a very strong agent. So she's had a base of clients, but she started over. She used to be in New Jersey as an agent when I was growing up. And she came down here in 2011. So she started over and really had to kind of build from nothing as well. So we both built almost from nothing here in this area. So one way we've done that is Joy's really good at the old school stuff. As I mentioned earlier, door knocking.
It's amazing.
It's definitely
that's a lost art.
It's a lost art. She's really good at. She's perfected it over 20 years or something, and so she's good at that. And we try to focus hyper locally. So we try to specialize in East Boca. We'll sell anywhere from, call it, I don't know, even maybe up to Port St. Lucie, but West Palm Beach to like Fort Lauderdale, right? So we'll work in that sector, but where we spend all our advertising and marketing budget and time and effort prospecting is really Boca Raton, right? So I'd say door knocking is a good source of business for us. The mailers combined with the door knocking also helps, right? And so we try to be hyper local, as I said, which means like we try to just like crush the marketing in a specific area.
Okay.
And I think that's what's really important about a business like ours, for our business, to get that massive brand awareness in a specific area. So
You're not spreading yourself too thin.
Exactly.
You're really focusing in on those areas that you want, which it also helps that East Boca has some pretty good prices for homes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so the commissions, work out to be good. If you're in a, let's say you were in, I don't know, Lantana, you're focusing on, you're going to have lower commission amounts, which is fine, but you chose strategically good areas.
and a different clientele, right? So it's just a different person, which is why I was saying different marketing techniques work well in different markets. So those two things is what she does, and then we focus on me and my team here focus on more of the technology side, referral type business from referral entities. So that's a big one for us.
Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah, so we connect. So we have relationships with big companies that basically prospect and try to generate leads, and then they'll push them to us.
Great.
And you have different levels of like how many leads they'll push to you. They may push to multiple agents. They may just push to you. So we have relationships with a bunch of these companies, and we did that early on, and that actually came through a coach that that recommended this to me, and she was like, you need to do this. This will at least get you
started.
base.
A turbo boost, yeah.
So, and since we've been doing that since, call it like the inception of those types of companies, we have a good relationship with a lot of them.
Okay.
And so we generate a bit of business there.
And we won't name them, but these are some national companies that some people would know.
Some are national, some are local. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. So that's a big source. Our cold caller has done a fair amount of business for us. So which is why we keep him on staff. We've experimented with building out a cold calling team and doing more cold calling. That hasn't been super successful.
Got it.
You got to have the right guy. You got to have the right systems, the right setup, and we're still struggling with that to a degree.
And the right data too, input, garbage in, garbage out, or the opposite.
Absolutely, 100%. And so we've spent a lot of effort and energy on that. We only have one cold caller. We had three at a period of time, and those other agents or other cold callers that aren't with us any longer weren't producing, and so we had to move on. And again,
But obviously this one was, so producing enough that the role is justified and that you're continuing on with doing some cold calling, correct?
correct. We basically now kind of just have him cold call, circle prospect, but also follow up with leads that come into the database, and the combination of that seems to generate enough business to make that role make sense.
Great.
And it's been helpful. Beyond that, for our market, we haven't found that we can just like scale a big cold calling business. At first, we were considering that. That was actually a big focus of ours early last year, and it just didn't play in the direction we wanted to.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But in this type of business, or really in almost any business where you're interacting with customers or consumers, you have to try different things, right? It's trying to experimenting, and you have to put your money where your ideas are, and sometimes those things work, and you make compounding returns on your investment. You have a great ROI, your return on investment, and sometimes they don't, and you pour money down the toilet and flush it. So.
Yeah, but they're all like learning experiences. Like for us, we want to test each and every one of these types of systems. We paid for Zillow leads, we've paid for Facebook ads, and we spent real money and spent real time on these types of things, and tried to manage with real metrics to make that decision. And certain like Facebook ads for us, that it wasn't working in our specific market the way we wanted it to, didn't continue to use it, right? So we've done a lot of these different things. I could go on all day about how many lead sources we've tried and or have in place. We do a ton of things.
But one of the things that I'm very impressed with, and one of the reasons I wanted to have the interview, one of many reasons with you, is that you're doing things, you're doing many things that are different from the average realtor and the type of guidance that they get. Most realtors focus on their sphere of influence, which is wonderful, and growing that sphere of influence. You're going to becoming parts of charities or social clubs or their religious organizations, and growing that sphere and getting the leads from that, which is wonderful, and a lot of realtors do quite well with that. Not that you don't get leads from your sphere of influence because you have a lot of friends and colleagues, but you've gone well beyond that with these different techniques that you have of lead generation and servicing leads from other companies. So that's, again, kudos to you.
Thank you
for doing something.
Yeah, I think to build a big business, you can't just rely entirely on your sphere. Mm-hmm. So we've been trying to build out other sources of business. Sphere and database work, I think, is key, and we always talk about this. We need to do better on it. So that's like something we need to do better on. We need to make sure the people in our database are being touched. We could probably generate a lot more Sphere business if we focused on that, and that's part of why we need some help here to add another buyer/listing agent.
Someone who's a closer, someone who can really build those relationships and close people.
And free me up with some of the maybe colder business, so that way I can focus more on my sphere, to your point. So that's the great business. I mean, that's like the warm business that's trustworthy.
Yes.
And so we've also pivoted to like focus a little bit more on our brand, which is why we focused on now building a YouTube channel here, because we think over time, while it's called a long tail strategy, it's the strategy that brings in leads and prospective buyers and sellers that are warm and want to work with you, versus the cold call business is we're going to pitch cold. So my mom and I have gotten really good at selling cold business, but it would be really nice to sell warm business, right? Let's build out that part of the business too while we're doing this. So
people, I've learned from my own business and being one of the owners of our law firm, people want to work with people that they like, and that's very important. That you really get your personality out there, who you are. I think videos and YouTube channels are great. In fact, we're working on ours now. This is the start of a series of videos we're going to be doing with different interviews. But getting to know your brand, getting to know your business, getting to know you personally, and I think that people get a sense of who you are, and once they feel that they judge you as being a good person and someone that's professional, someone that's going to have their back, it just makes things a lot easier. So yeah. You mentioned coaching before, getting professional coaching as a broker, realtor. How has that helped you? What are the benefits you've gotten from coaching? And we'll talk about maybe what you're working on right now.
Yeah, so I'm a believer in that. Mm-hmm. That actually, when I left GE, and coaching was a thing at GE too, to a degree, and education and just like continuous growth there. So I came from that world to a degree. And when I got out of that world and jumped into this entrepreneurial world, I realized quickly that would be a good way to get me going quick. Mm-hmm. While there's like a decent amount of cost associated with coaching, it's just like it'll get you to where you want to go faster. So for example, I hired a coach in 2018 or 2019, early in the year, and that took me from where I was then, which was producing not like a substantial amount, maybe call it, we produced probably 20 million in 2019 to 80 million, right?
It's a huge jump.
4 times. 4X. Yeah. Yep. So like, and that, so that's real. And so that a good portion of that was the guidance and direction of the coach I had at that time. She was awesome. So I think coaching's super important. I think getting coaching on specific things are really important. There's like an accountability piece, which is great. To your point earlier,
that's huge. Accountability.
Yeah. Accountability is big, but what I found is when you have a team like this, mm-hmm. you like have to be accountable. Mm-hmm. So like I don't personally need as much accountability once you have like a team of 11 people here. So that, because you have to show up anyway. You have to get this done. They're expecting you to finish certain tasks anyway. So like I need to deliver to Will some of the business development things that he's.
And they're going to stay on top of you. Hey, did you get to this yet? Hey, where are we at on this? And that's great. I love that when I've gotten busy with something, one of my paralegals will email me to remind me, hey, let's get moving on this.
And if you're hiring the right people that you like respect, you want to do good for them, right? And you want them to think highly of you, so you continue to improve your character and your execution.
Right.
So I think that's a big piece of it. And I found that quickly. As soon as I hired my first person, I noticed, wow, look at my productivity. It's higher than it was before when I didn't have anyone on the team. Yeah. And then as we built it out further, it became even a bigger thing for me. My productivity just continue to increase. I can't slack off because like Will's expecting certain things from me,
sure.
and he cares. He wants to crush it too. Like, and that's why he's with me. So, yeah.
You motivate each other. Yeah. You feed off each other. And so accountability is one big thing. What else?
So accountability is helpful, but I don't necessarily feel that I necessarily need that from the coach. What I now feel I could use from a coach is if we're like trying to take down a specific, call it lead generation system, YouTube channel, as an example again. Like, we could probably benefit from a super technical YouTube coach that maybe has done it specifically in real estate and can just be like, you're doing this today, you're doing that, here's how you're gonna do it, here's how I do it, right? And it's just like very fast to the answer, so you don't have to go explore 5 different ways on how to do this, take maybe 2 to 5 times the amount of time to get to the answer, right? And you could just execute on what they've been doing. And so that's what we've tried to do too, is just like kind of mimic what some of these successful brokers have done in the YouTube space. And I think we're getting to a point where we maybe want a coach for something specific like that, or other types of stuff we're trying to complete in our business.
You can have different coaches, what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Besides just a broad general, hey, get motivated, here's how to start your real estate team, that kind of, it's hyper-focused coaching, yeah.
I know some people that have like mindset coaches as well. I think that's huge as well, because I think that could actually dramatically change your business also. We're in sales, so like we have to continuously think about like how we're showing up and the energy we're putting out when we're meeting with clients. And I think that actually dictates your success rate as well.
For sure, for sure. I also find that so many people, me included, I would say almost everyone, we get stopped in our careers, and sometimes it's also hard for us to, the accountability is one piece, making sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do, but also sometimes there's blind spots and we don't know what's stopping us. Where are we? Why can't I get past this level? And we need that third party perspective to come in and say, have you considered this or considered doing that? So I agree with you. I think coaching is fantastic, and I recommend it for everyone.
I've heard this quote somewhere: what got you to this point might not be what's going to get you to the next step, right? So like, and that's where the coach comes in to like kind of change that maybe mindset or that structure or whatever you're doing.
I agree, yeah. Do you have any other suggestions for realtors or maybe brokers such as yourself who maybe they've just taken their broker exam and they want to build a team around them? Any suggestions to become a top-tier agent or a top-tier broker? Not that you figured it all out. I haven't figured it all out either. It's a constant journey, but where you're at in your journey, you've had a lot of success. So what are some pieces of advice besides maybe getting coaching?
Yeah, I haven't. I definitely haven't figured it all out, right?
Well,
like we, so we're trying stuff and working hard every day to build our business.
Sure.
Recommendations. Let's see. So coaching, I think, was a game changer for me.
Great.
So that's big. I would also say that it's not easy. Like this business is not easy. So many people get into real estate thinking that they're gonna build their business.
Make easy money. Yeah.
And it's just not the case. And
it's a grind.
It's a grind.
Yeah.
It's a grind. I think you really need to understand and what you're getting into. So I think that's huge. But some recommendations might be: you need to get transactions under your belt. You need to get some experience. So if you don't have that experience, fortunately for me, I got my license and I bought a duplex and like didn't know what I was doing. And fortunately, it was a good moment to buy that duplex. Like we bought it for $220,000 and it's worth 700 today, 600 a day, right? Something like that. So like all those, like any mistake we made, it doesn't even reflect in that. So, and I guess the point is I was in a moment where I could do it myself, where I made a bet, I bought something and learned a lot. But I also did it and got my own experience, and I was the client and I was the broker. So I learned a lot. And by the time I was actually being a broker, like full time, I had already done a ton of transactions for myself, a ton of transactions for family and friends, but all during that time I was also, so that's like 6 years, 7, 8 years, whatever it was, all during that time I was working as an engineer. So I had that protection there. So I had a ton of experience, stuff I owned, operated, and sold by the time I got there. In the business, at least my mom always says this, you need 10 deals under your belt to like really feel like you know what you're doing. So like when I became a realtor in 2018, I already had that swagger, that confidence, right? That I know what I'm doing, and I did know what I was doing. And then now, like since then, what is that, 300 to 350 deals later? I mean, that's like, there's very little that I haven't touched. And fortunately I got you. So like if there is an issue that pops up, I can deal with it too. And so you build your network as well, right? So that's a big thing for realtors who are starting new. They need to form relationships. So maybe how you get your experience, if you're a new realtor and don't have have what I had, and everybody has their own path, maybe you join a team. Yeah. You know, if
join a team like that, you want to add realtors to your team. Find a good team that's going to mentor you, and as long as you have the drive, and maybe you're getting the coaching for yourself, and that's going to help you as your part on the team to close leads. But you also have mentors there. Maybe that's a way to go. Yeah.
And make sure you like the business. Like some people have an idea of the business that is incorrect. So there's a lot that goes into being a real estate agent. If you're on a team, it's one thing. You're servicing clients. If you're building your own business, I mean, you're a marketing expert. You know, you're a sales expert. You're so many other things. Yeah. So you got to make sure you're cool with that, because that can be exhausting for people too.
A lot of people watch the $1 Million Listing, and they watch all the glamour, and they're drinking the champagne at the showings, and it's they think that's what real estate's about. That's a little tip of the iceberg, and for the top 0.1% of agents. So it's a different reality, I think, than people see on TV. So let's talk about some of your multifamily properties and your other investment properties. You've mentioned that you're an investor. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your portfolio and how that got put together? Yes. What types of properties?
So this we could talk about all day. You and I talk about this all day. So all right. So Connor and I, my business partner, we've built a little investment portfolio here over the past, call it 12 years, 10 years. We have about 86 apartments together here in Palm Beach County.
You say little, it's a little bigger than little.
It's grown over time.
It's great.
Yeah. We're still little compared to these like big guys.
And if you don't mind, let me ask you your age.
I'm 35.
Good. I knew that, but I wanted the audience to hear that. So 35, you and your partner have 86 units?
86 apartments.
That's amazing.
And so we've focused on things we knew pretty well. So we started by looking in Boca Raton. And fortunately, at the time, in 2011 to 2015, that was a time where you could buy effectively and make some cash flow. You could buy multifamily in Boca Raton.
With good ROI.
With reasonable returns, So we did that. I bought a duplex. I actually live and still live in a duplex right now. So I bought a duplex, I lived in one side, rented the other side out. And then we got that experience right there. We stepped into it.
Let me just take a time out real quick for the audience. So you have 86 properties, you did $80 million in business last year. I'm not going to ask you what your income is, but I'm sure that you could afford to live, your duplex is really nice, and don't get me wrong, and it's in Boca Raton, but you could afford to live elsewhere in a nice large home, but you haven't done that the last couple of years. So what's the purpose behind that before you move on?
We can take a time out on this. Yeah. So I would just say one of the benefits of living in a duplex that basically had your other side of your duplex is paying for everything plus even my lifestyle at this point, which is great. Early on when I bought it,
so it's paying your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, and it's putting cash in your pocket.
Yes.
for you to live in the property. So you're living rent-free, mortgage-free as well. I mean, you have a mortgage, but the tenant is paying for the mortgage and all those other expenses. That's amazing.
Yep. And because of that, there's a unique advantage that comes with that, right? The unique advantage is you don't have to think about, oh, I have to pay my bills every month. That pays my bills almost entirely. It pays all my bills. So that's amazing, and that gives me then the ability to be aggressive in other things, take business risks, right? But invest in more real estate.
You know you're not going to lose the home, the roof over your head.
Yeah.
Good. You can start rolling the dice on other things.
Exactly. And so to me, that's the most exciting, fun thing for me personally, to do that, to just go get it, right? And that's again back to why this is where I belong. I belong in this world. So because I've made that decision / sacrifice, whatever you want to call it, to do that, so I can go do stuff like this, right? I have a full-time video editor, right? We just were like, let's do that, right? So and so we can do that because I have my basics covered personally. So yeah.
So back to your units, how you assembled those, the 86 units. How much time did it take you? When did you buy your first property, and what was the last property you bought?
First property purchased in 2011. That's the one I was living in, or I am living in.
So you assembled this over a course of 12 years.
12 years-ish, yep. So and then we proceeded to buy another duplex and then another duplex, and those were bought with my buddy / business partner, and then we went ahead and we bought an 8-unit. We got a little crazy, and we bought it in a neighborhood in West Palm that is otherwise not the most desirable.
It's challenging neighborhood.
Challenging neighborhood. You know that. You know the neighborhood.
Yes, I do.
That's actually how we met.
We do a lot of evictions. Yes.
Yes.
We went to eviction court.
Yeah,
that was the first time we met.
Yes, that's right. So that's how we met.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, and so we bought that, and I was self-managing these while as an engineer, and so we were learning a lot during that time. In fact, that 8-unit that I bought at that time, which actually surprising that the lender even gave us the loan. We went out, and that's a whole nother discussion, right? How do you get financing for these types of things, right? We can spend time on that later. So we went out and we got this deal done, and as soon as I bought it, realized quickly this is a very different market than Boca, and it's very difficult. It's a very difficult tenant base. So what we've become experts in over the years is just being good at low income / middle income properties. So C-class properties in anywhere from C to A-class neighborhoods, if we can get them to make sense from a cash flow perspective, right? So now we've got this portfolio here that we have an expertise in, and we probably, in most markets here in Palm Beach County, or most cities here in Palm Beach County, we have properties east-west. So now we've developed an expertise where we know the rents, we know how to operate these things, and so we can quickly move with confidence when we want to buy something else.
Great. Yep. Okay. Well, good. Are they all long-term rentals, or do you have some Airbnb as well?
So with my partner, my business partner, they are all annual rentals. That's his preference, and that's and my preference to a degree too. I think both sides of this is valuable for different reasons. So all the apartments we own together as a partnership are annual rentals, and they're again C-class type stuff. So not really conducive for a short-term rental.
Sure.
Yeah.
Short-term, you want to be in those A areas, those prime spots, maybe near the water, near cultural places that people want to go and visit, and tourists want to come and spend time in.
Long term, I think those assets probably can be that. Some of them, at least. Some of them not. We've kind of had a strategy where we like to invest in areas where the get lucky factor is high, right? So that might mean tougher neighborhood, but right on the cusp of downtown. And we've kind of developed our investment thesis over the years of all these mistakes and watching what's happening in these different marketplaces. So long story short, we like to invest where there's good potential growth. We call it infill neighborhoods. So neighborhoods that are really close to downtown, pretty walkable if possible, and long term will have some development in that area and might actually be conducive for short term / Airbnb. But that's not it's not our intention to Airbnb those. It's
Got
just nice, good annual rentals.
How many properties that you own do you Airbnb though? How many units or properties?
So I Airbnb the duplex that I live in.
So the other side. So you live in the one side and then you Airbnb the other side. Got it.
Yep, and that's like what, I don't know, half mile to the beach. So like it's
nice
a good
area.
spot. Yeah.
Yeah, good spot.
And then then I have another property that I Airbnb. It's a single family home.
Okay.
And so two that I Airbnb, and then my mom has an Airbnb as well. So
Okay.
I basically run that whole thing for her.
So you help manage
Yeah.
that. So essentially, two of your properties, two of your doors, you Airbnb, and then you manage your mother's property that you Airbnb. What have you learned from Airbnb? What's your feedback for people who maybe are considering, maybe they're thinking about buying a property, considering whether to do long-term rental or Airbnb? What are the things they need to weigh?
Yeah, I think first off, I think there's the reason why I go to Airbnb and then also do some annuals is it's a different cash flow setup, right? Airbnbs you can buy in nicer neighborhoods and you can cash flow them much easier. And then the annual rentals that we buy, the lower income stuff that we buy, doesn't cash flow as much in most cases. Amazing appreciation, and it's a different investment theme than the short-term stuff.
More of a slow appreciation on the multifamily, meaning you're not there for the cash flow as much as you're there for the appreciation of the property.
Yeah, and I'd also say the risk profile is different, right? And this might
Stability,
be
yeah.
Yeah, stability, exactly. People might be like, oh yeah, the long-term rentals, the Class C stuff is riskier. I don't see it that way. We see that as very low risk. There's low inventory here in South Florida for that product. It's very easy to rent that stuff. There's usually always going to be, in our opinion, someone that needs to pay for lower income housing, especially if it's maintained well and clean and safe, right? And that's obviously what we do. So that risk profile is a little bit more secure than, say, a variable hospitality market, which has always been proven to be a little bit more cyclical. And that's what you are when you're in an Airbnb space, right? So if you're in Airbnb, you got maybe some more cyclicality there altogether. So, and we're experiencing that a little bit right now. The Airbnb market's pulled back a little bit, right? Yeah. But if you own these things right and you buy right, then you're not even worried about it.
I think that's the key there is buying right, because I think so many investors that I speak with, my clients, they look at these properties and they're considering buying properties in A neighborhoods at really high prices, but they say, well, it cash flows and it cash flows decently as long as I can hit my numbers on Airbnb. But I challenge them with this, well, what happens if we have another event? Let's say we had another COVID for a few months. I'm not talking about long-term COVID because people started to use Airbnbs 6 months, a year into COVID, but I'm talking about the first few months. Can you afford to pay your mortgage if you have little or no rentals? Or what about the fact that so many people now are getting into Airbnb, especially here in South Florida and other areas of Florida as well, the hot markets, the Orlando, Kissimmee market, the Tampa, Jacksonville, a lot of Airbnbs going on, and once it gets saturated, then you might actually have those daily rental rates coming down or your actual occupancy rates coming down. I'm not poo-pooing the Airbnbs at all, but you really got to buy it right. That's my opinion. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that.
Buy it right, finance it right, too. That's like a big thing. Like I was talking to a guy who had a hard money loan on his Airbnb. He was paying 9%. Wow. And the market started changing, and he was really in a jam. And he was calling me to sell me one of his properties so he could pay off his high interest rate or finance deal on this Airbnb. And it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
like that's
dangerous.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You can't do that. So that's a big part too.
Yeah, buy it right. I think that's key. You mentioned that you do have a partner on your multifamily housing. I know my wife and we've got 35 units, 35 doors, and I don't have a partner. I mean, I technically do, being it's my wife, but we work very well together, and I'm able to jump on a property if I see it that I think is a great deal, and she trusts me and that. But when you're working with a partner who's not your wife or a loved one, what are the benefits of having a partner in investment properties, and what are some of the challenges that come along with that?
Yeah. Again, there's like a high level of mutual respect here. So like I'm very fortunate. my business partner is.
You do have a great partner. I know him
Yes.
too. Yeah, he's a great partner. But just in general, what can you foresee if maybe you weren't so lucky as to have a great partner, or what are some of the things that he brings to the table?
Yeah, totally. So fortunately, there's a level of that mutual respect that we talked about, and we think very alike, which is great. We grew up together, in fact, right? So like we played,
trust.
We played soccer against each other growing up, and so we really, there's that trust. We know each other's character really well, and we value the relationship, I think. So when there has been issues, or like not issues,
Just
but
disagreements sometimes.
Yeah,
they happen.
things that we needed to discuss, we just handle it. So that's important. So, and again, I was talking to another guy who had a partner in a deal, and they just he chose the wrong partner.
Yeah.
And so that's like super important if you're going to do this. And Connor and I have deliberately made the decision to not bring in any other partners into deals. There's other deals that we could have done with other people. They wanted to get involved, and keeping the partnership small, I think is just like an advantage. The more people you add to decision metrics, it just convolutes things. We were talking about this a little earlier, just like everybody has their own investment outlook and when they need money and all these other things.
And when they want to exit too. So,
Exactly.
if you start bringing in more partners, if one or two of those partners wants to exit and the others don't,
That's
you got a
complicated.
problem.
That's complicated.
You got a problem.
Especially if you're doing really good deals and now all of a sudden they're worth a lot more money, and now you got to buy this partner out, and you don't want to pay that number for that property because it's just like that's not your business model. Your business model is buy things at a specific price and grow them through value add, right? And so that's our strategy. So Connor and I from the beginning have agreed that like we buy things and we just don't sell them. Right?
Yeah.
And that's
Buy and hold.
Yeah.
These are more or less, this is your retirement, right? This is the same for me and my wife. I've got the great majority of our assets and what we own in real estate investments, and I want to hold these properties for 20, 30 plus years. And we can do the Burr method and do some cash out refis and then go buy more properties, or use the income we have from our day job, so to speak, to buy more. But I agree. You really have to be aligned. I think the key is being aligned with your partner as to what your goals are. And do you want the cash flow? Do you want to continue to buy properties and hold these for 10, 20, 30 years? Or are you looking for fix and flip and or quick entry and exit? And there's different types of ways to make money.
Totally. There's different types. We Connor and I both feel the way we're making money is like, at least in the real estate business, we wish we invented the new app that made us billions, right? But the way we're doing this, we both agree that we like this process, this method, buy and hold, and we both look at this as a business. We don't look at it as we're buying a property. We're building a business. So I think that's a different mindset than what some people look at when they're like buying an investment property. Some people ask me all the time, they ask me like, hey, I want to get into the investing thing. Let me tell me what I should do. And I quickly ask them like, well, what's your plan? What are you thinking you want to do? Do you want to build like a real estate investment portfolio and a business? Or no, I just want to buy one. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Like, just think about what that means. Because one, to me, is like a lot of work. Right? So like that's like one can be a lot of work, or two or three can be a lot of work, right? Maybe when we had 20 and I was managing myself, we had to change what we were doing, and it was just exhausting.
I went through the same experience. Yeah. Once my wife and I, once we got up to 10 units, I was stuck there for a couple years, and I didn't know why I was stuck, but I realized one day, just a light bulb went off, that it's all those text messages about, hey, the sewage is backed up, or you got to come over with a vacuum to clean out the septic tank, or those late night calls. They're not fun. The evictions, they're not fun. None of it is fun, which is why after the 10 units, I realized, hey, I need a property manager. And from there, that freed up time. And it was also sort of a mental block that I had, that I knew that if I was going to buy more units, it was going to get even worse if I was self-managing. So once I got a property manager who was a great property manager, I actually got the reference from you. We used the same property manager who's great. That was a real game changer. So what did you don't self-manage your properties anymore, right?
No, nope. I've gone through a handful of property managers, and now we have the right guy. You have the right guy. I have the right guy, and that is a game changer. This goes back to like building a business, you need to have systems, and you need to be good at building systems.
That's great.
And that's, fortunately, my background is a little bit in that.
Yeah.
So systems are super important. And once you get the right system, you realize how terrible it was when you didn't have that system, and it's like a light bulb, like you said.
Yeah.
So you got the right manager.
You kick yourself for, why didn't I realize this 2 years ago? Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know. You have you have half the answer. You have like a partially good manager, or you have the almost right employee, right, to do whatever you're doing in your brokerage business. And then once you get the right employee, you're like, wow, game changer. Now I can go build. So you need to put the right people in place, the right systems in place, and then you can build. And so for us here in South Florida, we not only do we understand really well what we're buying because of our experience and because of all the assets we own, but also we have I would say the right systems, and so I can sit here confidently and say I could buy another 200 units, and it would be relatively passive. There's work to do. There's no question. I'm getting dragged into. I actually have to talk to you later about some issues that we got going on. So we have stuff I have to handle, and usually it comes with, because we're buying stuff that needs value add. We need to stabilize the asset, and we inherit like a lot of the nonsense from the previous owner. But and that's what I'll talk to you about later. But basically, like once you have those systems, I can say confidently I can add 200 doors, and we're good to go.
And you're good.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's. And I will give you vouch for you that you, through your expertise of multifamily ownership, I've come to you a number of times. You've helped me source deals. You've helped me purchase deals. You really give a lot of value add to clients who are coming in and they're looking to buy an investment property or multiple investment properties, because you've been there, you've done it. You know how to calculate all the necessary numbers to find out if the deal is good or if it's not good. So yeah. It's powerful. It's powerful. That information is power. It really is, and you have to live it in order to really have that knowledge. Whether you either live it as being the investor or from being the broker and doing a number of deals of multifamily investment properties. Either way can work, but you went that route, which is being the investor first and then the broker later, which is normally it's the opposite.
There's a difference, though, definitely when you own your stuff and compared to a broker who's never owned anything. There is a big difference there, in my opinion, because you and I, we buy stuff from investors, or I'm sorry, you and I, we buy stuff from brokers all the time, and they don't understand the assets like we understand the assets. They're not living it day to day.
Yeah. What happens? So you close, and then you go start visiting your property, and that's when the real fun begins. Yeah. And I sometimes it is fun, and it is fun. The game in general, the real estate game, is very fun. Yeah. But the challenge of buying a new asset and really getting it stabilized is not so fun. It's just a part of the game, though. So,
yeah, they don't necessarily understand the costs the way we understand them, and the current costs, because like costs have changed a lot over the years, right? And some brokers are still quoting numbers like, hey, these are the costs from before. Or they may not entirely understand what the insurance is currently. We have a portfolio of assets. We know what the insurance numbers are. We have guys we can call quickly to answer those questions. They may not understand how to deal with the city on specific value add deals that you're doing. Like we're talking to the city about getting licensing for the buildings. Like they're selling deals that don't have any licenses to operate as a multifamily building, right? And when you get a license, what happens? You gotta get inspected. You gotta pay 20 G's to fix the driveway. Yeah, the driveway looks okay, but the city wants you to fix it. So in order to get that license, you gotta do that. So if you wanna operate a building right and above board, which you have to, because you're going to get jammed one way or another anyway. So if you want to operate a building right, you really need to understand those things, and you need to have lived it. And you need to have lived it in that city with that specific city inspector, right? And so if you have that experience, which we have from Boca to West Palm at this point, even Fort Pierce, like that is what is valuable, and that goes back to just coaching, right? Like, a coach that really knows what he's doing and understands exactly what you're trying to do and can just be like, here's the blueprint, right?
Yeah. No, I agree completely. Knowledge is power. Are you currently looking for more deals, or are you holding tight right now? What's your personal plan for right now, and then we'll get into some of your investment advice for folks, because everyone lives a different situation too. Everyone, some people may need to be putting money to work right now. Some people may be moving money from one state to another, or have 1031 exchanges, but what's your personal situation?
Yeah, obviously every investor has their own investment thesis and their own needs, right? And I've worked with guys that have a whole bunch of different investment needs, basically. So for me and Connor, and then me personally too, I'm a believer in, if there's a good deal, you can find one in any market. So I'm a believer in that you can find a good deal in any market. It might be harder in certain markets than others, but there's opportunity pretty much always, right? So are we holding tight? No, we're looking at deals. I'm continuing to maintain my network of wholesalers, brokers, anybody and everybody, bird dogs, whatever you want to call them, right? People that are looking for deals and trying to broker deals. Because I'm a broker, but when I purchase my own deals, a lot of times I am just telling that broker that they represent me, and that's I'm a broker. I get it. Like, they have a deal, they should get paid.
You step out of the shoes of your broker role and into the shoes of the client role.
Yep, exactly, which is fine for us if we like the deal.
And for those investors out there who are listening, it's something that I've learned, and I think I partially learned this from you, but also just from my own experience, is that if you can get a broker to get both sides of a deal, they're more incentivized to get that deal done and make sure that you get the deal. I'm not saying they do anything unscrupulous or unethical, but they're just personally incentivized, rather than if some other client's coming to them with a realtor and they're only getting 1/2 the commission, they're getting, let's say, the 3% of the full 6% commission, they're less incentivized to take that offer. I'm not saying they do something unscrupulous, but they certainly will go the extra mile for you if they know that you're coming in and you're a serious client, and that, again, you're letting them get the full commission. So.
And if you're building a business and you're focused on the long term, you want these guys to make the most money possible every time they pick up the phone to call you, right?
Because guess what's going to happen the next time they have a great deal? They're going to call you first. And I've experienced that. I get emails from some of the same people that you do, and I love the relationships that I've built with them. And I'm very straight up and honest with them. I don't waste their time. I'll do some quick numbers and I'll say, no thanks on this one, but please keep them coming. Please keep sending me the deals. And they know I'm a serious buyer, and so are you. And as long as you treat people right and you've done right by them, they'll do right by you.
Exactly.
It's a relationship business.
It's a relationship business, and a lot of the bigger multifamily, or I call it bigger, 5 units and up type stuff is relationship, transacted based on relationships. Mm-hmm. They like to sell to, brokers like to sell to people they know will get the deal done, because it's a specialized business.
It's a niche business, a niche part of real estate, absolutely.
Yep. Can you get the financing? A new guy that they don't know if he can get finance. They don't know how he's going to act during the inspection period. There's so many things that could go wrong in a deal, and they want to sell to guys that own stuff in the area. They get it. They own the same product, so they're very focused on that. So you and I get calls like that from brokers, like, hey, we know Jaron owns X in this marketplace. Well, we're going to call him because we know if he wants it, this deal's a wrap, because we know how he conducts himself, right? So for example, I've brokered a deal to you that the broker called me off market and said, hey, I got a deal for you. And I was like, well, I don't have all the cash right now to do this, but I got a guy for you.
The timing's not right, but here, yeah.
And then we kind of just quickly worked out where, again, we made sure he got paid more. Mm-hmm. The broker that called, so we made sure it made sense for him to keep calling us, even if it's not going to be me that's buying the deal and he can't get the full commission. We made sure he got the money, and I called you, and obviously I called you because I know you can transact. Like, I didn't call like 5 other people that call me and say, hey, I want to buy multifamily, right? I called you because you own deals, you get it, and so we got a deal done really quickly.
Yeah, I agree, and that was smooth. So thank you for that. One more question regarding your investment portfolio. What are if you could just talk to the viewers about financing, the differences between traditional residential financing, your fixed 30-year mortgages, and your commercial deals, which commercial being anything above 4 units, so 5 units and above. What type of financing, how's it structured, how do you find the rates are compared to residential?
Yeah, I think this all comes with experience and then holding debt with a lot of different banks, right? And so there's different ways to go about getting financing, right? For the residential stuff, so the 4 units and less, a traditional mortgage broker could help you with that, and it might make sense to do it that way. That gets you your 30-year term, your 30-year AM at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, decent rate, right? But you may not want to do that for multiple reasons. Like, we consider it every time we do a 4 unit or less, but a lot of times we end up in the regional bank space. So we have a list of regional banks that we know are in the market, and we usually go through and price them out. And now that we have experience and exposure and sometimes debt with certain banks, I can quickly call them and go, hey guys, got a deal. And because they know we're prepared, we're organized, they know how we send them packages. So like, if I find a deal that's 4 units, even if it's 2 units, if I find a deal that's 2 units, they get a full lender underwritten package from me. Boom, they can look at this deal.
They must love you.
Yeah, super easy, super easy. In fact, I call them and I make sure every bank underwrites a little differently, and I make sure if I'm sending it to that bank, I underwrite the deal the way they want it, right?
Wow.
So they get that done and they get that package. So but first I'll just.
And that's quicker turnaround time. So that's one of the reasons
immediate.
you do that.
I can get on the phone with them, walk them through it, and they'll say yes, because they already know typically that our personal situations. They already know that they can vouch for our personal situations. So now it's all about the deal. Mm-hmm. Does the deal work for them?
Right.
And typically, when you're buying a property and you're using that type of financing, this like regional bank type financing, it's a relationship thing, but it's also focused on the deal and less on the borrower. Like, when you do a residential financing, you're focused on, can the borrower financially pay for the asset. They're less focused on the deal. They're more focused on, how much income do you make, Larry, and all that stuff. And that has to qualify along with the deal making sense. When you go to the regional banks, it's more focused on the deal itself, less focused on, Larry, how much money do you make? That matters, but it's less.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
They treat it like a business.
Yeah.
And
sure.
that's the way we focus too.
Yeah. As they should.
Yeah.
And so most of your commercial financing would be 30-year amortized, but how many years do you lock in the rate for?
Yeah.
What are you seeing out there?
All good questions. So there's so much to talk about, right?
Sure.
So the traditional resi financing, 30-year term, 30-year AM, rates vary, right? Mm-hmm. Usually no prepayment penalties or stuff like that. The commercial financing or the regional banks that do this lending, they might range anywhere from 20-year to 30-year amortization. They can range usually anywhere from 3 to 10-year terms. They have prepayment penalties typically. So for the first 3 years, you're paying some kind of prepayment penalty. Usually it's like a 3-2-1 on the points. And then also remember that you're not entirely protected here like you are when you buy a residential property. You need to understand what loan package they're giving you. Like, we have to review these docs. We have to call you and send you a package and say, hey, here's what the lender's loan terms are, and here's their full package. Protect us. Let us know if there's an issue, right? So typically, we've historically done that on our own because my business partner has an expertise in this. So we can kind of read the documents and we request changes, which also makes things a little faster sometimes. But we've also talked internally that we need to start sending like packages to attorneys to make sure they're reviewed properly, and then ask the bank to make changes. So they're making changes to documents. This is a negotiation. It's not so much a negotiation. It's not a negotiation at all when you're doing a resi financing, right? It's just like, here's the package, sign the documents. That's it, right?
We're not making any changes to the mortgage or the note. Yeah.
Because in theory, the federal government has protected you in that to a degree, right?
Exactly.
So again,
Fannie Mae or federally compliant documents that they're using, whereas a smaller bank or a more regional bank on these commercial deals, they have some flexibility to change the terms a bit, and exactly. You can negotiate those things to some extent. Yeah, to some extent, depending on the bank. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, let's use this as an opportunity. Let's discuss some thoughts on the general economy. You and I are well placed to, like I like to say, we're canaries in the coal mine, that we, in our businesses, we can see the trajectory of the economy, maybe not 6 months out or a year out with any perfection, but we have a feel for where transactions are at right now, where buyers are at, where sellers' heads are at, and based on whether it be certain number of closings that we're doing, or number of evictions that we're doing, or certainly with your team, the number of transactions you're doing, the number of listings you have, the number of days on market. So with all that, what are the data points showing you, and what's your gut on where we're at right now, where we've been, and where you think we might be going?
Yeah, and so I do a monthly market report typically for our clients, so they can see like exactly what the local market's doing, because national news is one thing, right?
Yep, sure.
And
There's macro, and then there's micro, and then there's hyper micro.
Exactly.
Like your hyper micro might be just your neighborhood or your zip code. Micro might be the county, for example, and then the macro is going to be your nation or the world.
yeah, and I was doing like very, very specific Boca Raton reports on the market, and I would do that in correlation with like Palm Beach County reports, and I noticed that they actually pretty much have trended together for the past couple of years. So that's kind of interesting. So recently we've been doing more just Palm Beach County to make it a little bit more broad and a little bit more accessible, so people can get a sense.
Makes sense.
So we'll do that monthly, and we go through the data very, very closely. So anybody can check that out if they want on our YouTube channel. So right now, I'd say my feel versus what the data's suggesting are feel a little differently. Like you said, like we're doing a lot of transactions every week, a couple listings on the market, open houses, what's the demand, what's the traffic. That's one thing, the anecdotal feel. I'd say we'll start there. So the anecdotal feel of the residential real estate market here in, call it Palm Beach County area, is the market's healthy. It's healthy in the sense that we're still selling properties pretty quick if they're priced right. If they're priced right, they sell in 2 weeks or less typically, right? The average days on market in the area is around like 50-ish days. So it's gone up quite a bit. I think last year this time was about 30-ish days. So not double, but close. The inventory in this area.
Quick question on that, sorry to interrupt you, but days on market, 30 days on market was historically low though, right?
30 days on average on market was historically low, and you would see houses sell in like 2 days in that marketplace. I mean, 30 days is amazing.
Right.
50 days is great.
Still good.
Yeah, like so that's
So I just wanted to kind of give the reference point that, while days on market have increased nearly 2x, it's still low. Good, right. So still a strong market.
still a strong market for that reason. So there's reasons, and we'll talk about that, why I think that's the case. So now also the inventory in general has doubled since last year, same time last year, right? Which is, wow, that's scary, right? But if you compare today's inventory to pre-COVID, like 2019 numbers, we're still half of what 2019 is.
Wow. And 2019 was a good market.
I thought 2019
when I was in 2019, I said we're lights out. We're doing well. Yeah.
We were discussing like, is this the peak in 2019, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
that, like
It
that
was
was
nowhere near the peak,
nothing close to it. So we're still half of the inventory that we had in 2019, and again, anecdotally, I would say it actually feels like we haven't doubled in inventory personally, because when I go to a house in a neighborhood to list a property, I'm pulling up the data and I'm just like, there's nothing in this neighborhood for sale. You're like one of the only houses on the market is usually the topic.
Great for the seller.
Yeah, there's some neighborhoods that have increased a bit, but for the most part, like inventory feels epically low still. Now, in June of 2022, inventory felt like it doubled. It really did. I was selling homes in the Boca markets and I was like, oh my gosh, there's 12 homes on the market and there were like 2 before. Now I'll go to that same neighborhood and it feels like there's less. So again, anecdotally, it feels like there's less than there was in June, but actually the number's the same when you look at the stats. Okay. Exactly. So inventory's doubled. So again, it's trending towards a market where buyers have a little bit more say in the decisions and
because they used to have no say in 2022 and even 2021. It was whatever the price is, you were seeing above list price offers on the regular, right?
I could guarantee, almost guarantee, 95% guarantee that when we sat down with a buyer or a seller, when we sat down with a seller, there was going to be 7 days where we would be on the market, and within 7 days we'd be off the market, even if you stretched in price. Like we put a number out, and I'd be like, personally, they wanted that number or something, and I'd be like, oh man, this is gonna be a tough one. Boom, sold. So my process was in 2022 and 2021 was put your house on the market on a Wednesday, and we have the open houses on the weekend. Monday we ask for highest and best. Tuesday everybody gets those numbers back to us. Wednesday I complete the negotiation and I send you a contract to sign, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. Okay, and then we're off to the races. And usually that might look like 5 to 0 days inspection period, cash, even though they're not doing cash, they're getting a finance term, but they're waiving all finance contingencies. It was just cash. Now the market's very different, and also then you could even put like a house that needs a lot of updating on the market, and it would sell really fast and pretty close to like something that was renovated. It was just chaos. It wasn't a healthy market.
No, it's not healthy.
It wasn't healthy for me personally, and it wasn't healthy for the economy.
It's healthy for your bank account. For
Not
that
for
period
my
of time.
well-being, though.
No, I get it. Yes, yeah.
So
For your stress levels.
yeah, not at all.
But we're so in essence, I think what I hear you're saying, and tell me if I'm correct, is that not just anecdotally, but also based on the data, we're moving back in the direction of a healthy market where there's some balance between buyers and sellers' expectations and what they're looking for, where the sellers don't hold all their cards anymore, and they actually have to reasonably negotiate prices and be, and we're not seeing. Well, first, let's start with that. Is that an accurate?
I would say that's accurate, and what we are seeing, which I was driving towards, is now those houses that need renovation, the spread has increased between what like a good clean house would sell for and what a house that needs renovation, and those houses are sitting on the market longer.
Got it.
And so
That's one of the reasons there's
Normal.
Inventory. That's normal.
It's normal.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, duh.
But that wasn't the case before, so that's huge. The absorption rates, though, if you look at absorption rates, we're pushing into a buyer's market. The absorption rates are pushing, so the lowest absorption rate in the market here.
Can you explain absorption rate to our audience?
So absorption rate is basically if demand holds at the current rate. So if homes are being purchased at the current rate, how long would it take for all the inventory on the market to be sold, right?
Yep.
So that's basically what absorption rate is. So absorption rate for like homes under 500,000 are close to like 5 months, somewhere around there, 5 months. And now, the homes above, call it like 1-2 million, they're sitting at like 12 months. Now before, like a year ago, I mean, you would see like 1 month, right? See 1 month absorption rates, and then even in the super high-end luxury market, you'd see like 4 months absorption rate. So I mean, that was epically low. Now we're trending back towards anything over 6 months is typically defined as a buyer's market. So now stuff in the 750s to 1 million, that's sitting in like the 6s and 7s absorption rates. So it's, from that perspective, it's a buyer's market. From the days on market perspective, it's still a seller's market, right? Now, why are those two numbers different? It's because the inventory is so low. Now, inventory, why is inventory so low? Fortunately, in South Florida, this market's healthy, in my opinion, because there's no room to build new product, at least in our area, right?
our area.
You got to go pretty north here.
That could be different in Orlando, where there is a lot of room to expand and grow.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And in Texas, they're seeing a inventory spike to a degree because they have so much space to go out, right?
course.
We have the Everglades and
That's it.
all that. So we have a limit. And any new houses that are being built in our market are really, like, I don't think I see anything north or south of like 1.5 million, right? So the GL communities and all those, I mean, they're in the twos, right? So, and that's in the Boca area. So yeah, so you can't put new product on the market. And so the only way to get new inventory or more inventory is to have more sellers jump on the market. And I think that's like a good thing for our market from a seller's perspective. Like, I think things are going to hold steady.
Okay, and so how about prices? What are you seeing in prices here in the local South Florida market?
There's no question that prices have come down a bit. The average sale price has dropped anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 here in the South Florida market, or let's say more specifically Palm Beach County. That's
In the last 6-7 months?
Exactly, off the high. So the high was June of 2022, and as compared to January of 2023.
Got it.
So, and I think we're okay though, because inventory is low and we have a healthy demand because we have a healthy population growth here. We have people moving from all parts of the world and country, California, New York, New Jersey, et cetera. So I think there's a support that we're seeing here that we're not going to drop too much further from this current reduction in price.
Got it. And what about the psychology of buyers and sellers right now? Because that plays into prices. Obviously, it's supply and demand, but what are you seeing? Whereas maybe 7-8 months ago, you had sellers that were, they knew they held all the cards, and the buyers that knew that they were in desperate straits, moving here from New York or California, and they had to pay whatever the market prices were, and their realtors were telling them that. Where's it at now?
So I think this is worth talking about from an investor perspective and from just a residential real estate broker's perspective, right? So on both sides here, sellers have higher expectations than the buyers, right, in price. So a lot of the sellers that I'm meeting with on the residential side, they're looking at data from June of 2022 and hoping that they can get that number, right? And the reality is in most cases, they cannot. It's just the reality of the market. Buyers have more power, and buyers are making decisions to put in offers significantly lower than that June of 2022 average sale price number. So
a gap in expectations, a gap between what the seller believes they can get and what the buyer believes that the market really is going to bear and what they're willing to pay. So we're seeing that, right?
And that is why you're seeing longer days on market, because sellers are refusing in most cases to, or some cases to
pay outrageous price, what they deem to be outrageous prices.
Yeah, sellers are refusing to drop, buyers are refusing to pay that price. And it's primarily because the interest rates moved, right? The affordability has changed here quite a bit. And on the investment side, for you and I, it's making it hard to buy additional investment properties right now because sellers still want their high number.
Sure.
And we can't make the math work when a cap rate of 5 or 6% exists, or that's what the seller's offering, and we have to pay 5 or 6% in an interest rate when we take a loan. So that math just doesn't
You
work.
might even be cash flow negative at this point if you're doing that. But there are, what I'm finding on the multifamily side, because we do a lot of closings, not just on the residential side for clients such as yours, but also a lot of multifamily and commercial deals, we're finding that there is also a support for multifamily properties because there's so much money still flowing in here from California, New York, New Jersey, the Northeast, with multifamily owners that are selling their properties and 1031ing their money using the 1031 mechanism to avoid taxes, having to pay taxes on that money when they sell it. And then they have a very limited time frame to move that money into a new property, identify a new property, typically 45 days or less. And so they're willing to pay, these higher prices on multifamily and investment properties. I don't know how long that'll go on for, but we're not seeing a big drop in multifamily and commercial prices. At least I'm not an expert and I'm not a broker in it, but I certainly keep my ear to the wall, and I see the closings that come across our desk, and that's what it seems to be going on as well.
From my perspective as a real estate investor, that is absolutely the case. There's deals that get done that I'm like, oof, I would never pay that price. But there's other investors that have other situations like 1031s, or they're moving money from out of the country. We have a unique market. It's international as well, so you get that experience as well. People moving money from countries like Brazil or something like that,
Sure.
and they want to park their cash safely in the United States, and South Florida seems to be a haven for that too.
And trying to get away. We may think our inflation is bad at 7.2% or whatever the number is, the CPI is for the month, but compared to Argentina or some of these countries who may have, who knows, 80, 90% inflation, and their currency is being wiped out. They want the stability of the American market, which gets to my next question about cash buyers. Are you seeing a good amount of cash buyers in the residential properties?
I would
More
say,
than a year ago, let's say.
I would say there are less cash buyers than a year ago, but here's the trick. A lot of people were buying properties cash, but that was just the term they were using. They were using non-finance contingent purchases. So basically what they were doing is they were saying, hey, I'm buying cash, but I'm actually buying with a finance transaction here.
Got it.
I'm financing the deal. I'm just waiving all my finance contingencies.
Got it.
So now there's significantly less of that. The the loan commitment period used to be like 14 days for some deals. Now they're 30. They're back to where they used to be.
normal.
Yeah.
Back to
So
normal.
I'm seeing less cash, and anybody who is a cash buyer, for the most part, is buying and wants to pay less than the market
Sure.
is offering right now. So they're making lower offers too. So cash, some of my sellers come to me and say, oh, I find a cash buyer, the interest rate doesn't matter. But the reality is the interest rate does matter, because any cash buyer wants an advantage for spending and using cash, right? So they want to pay less than what a finance buyer would pay. And if a finance buyer is not paying the peak June 2022 prices, which they're not, then the cash buyer also wants to pay less than that.
Yeah.
So.
That makes a lot of sense. What are your predictions for 2023 and maybe even 2024? I know you don't have a crystal ball, neither do I, but what are you feeling out there based on some of the macroeconomic data that you read, watch, and also what you're seeing and hearing from the sellers and buyers that you work with?
At a high level, I think this is all fine. It's great. Like, we were at a crazy moment early last year. It was chaos. It was inflated. There was too much demand, too little inventory. We need to get back to a normal steady state market, and that's where we're headed, I think. I think it's possible that prices come down a little bit more. I think we're in the selling season right now for South Florida, January, February, March, April. So I think we're going to have healthy demand right now and healthy sales prices. But there's a potential that prices come down a little bit further. I think when we end in a steady state market here, the expectation from sellers is going to adjust, and buyers, and same with buyers. So we'll start to see transactions maybe increase a little bit here, just because of that. Because
the expectations, the gap is lessening and not as wide as it used to be, which helps the number of transactions that are contracts and the time on market, but also helps to reduce the number of cancellations. Because I know that with our title and closing department the last 6 months, we've seen a lot more cancellations of deals than we have in the past. And I think a lot of that is buyers that are just pulling out because they're seeing prices dropping a bit, not a nosedive by any stretch of the imagination, but they also may get under contract wanting to retrade the property, meaning wanting to go and negotiate a lower price, get the seller under contract, get them locked in there, and then try to go do the inspection and try to get a lower price and renegotiate that deal. That's my feeling. Do you think there's some of that was going on?
That's happening more now, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
a year ago, you almost couldn't ask for any concession from the seller.
Yes.
Now it's more of a buyer's market. So now buyers find an issue in the inspection, maybe rightfully so, and they ask for a concession or a solution to that problem. And that's absolutely commonplace and common practice at this moment in time. So I think real buyers who really need a house and want to buy a house, they're trying really hard to buy a house. And it's hard for them because prices, or most sellers are pricing their property relatively higher than what maybe market value is today. They're pricing at what June 2022 numbers looked like.
Okay.
And
on that note, just to wrap things up, what advice do you have for, let's say, a buyer is looking to move here, or maybe they live here and they're renting and they want to buy? So some advice for buyers and some advice for sellers who are either looking to downsize and sell their property, or for whatever reason they're selling, maybe retire. Yeah.
From a buyer's perspective, I'd say, obviously get smart with the area. Understand what you're looking for, and then once you achieve that goal, now we got to go make offers on properties. And some properties might be priced higher than what the comps are, but in this market, it's worth making an offer. So my opinion is, and what we're telling buyers is, just make the offer at what fair market value is. Let's hit them with an offer, because in a lot of cases, when sellers price their home above the fair market value price, they're not getting any offers. So at that point, if you're the only offer sitting there at the fair market price, when that seller makes the decision that they really want to sell, they may call you back, or they may in that moment say, this is the offer I'm going to take. And so you're first in line, because demand's healthy enough, population growth is healthy enough that once they drop to the fair market price, the house is selling.
Got it.
So you want to be first in line here, and so don't get discouraged by these higher prices. Let's put some offers in. Let's see if we can't get a seller to come to a reasonable term on the deal. So, and then from a seller's perspective, my opinion, and it's always been this way, at least for the past few years, is let's look at the comps. Let's figure out what value is today. Let's be careful not to overprice based on what June 2022 numbers looked like, and let's hit it right at the fair market value or pretty close to it. And if you do that, your property will sell fast, and you'll be happy with the outcome. And we'll have a little bit more leverage from the listing side to negotiate some of those terms, and or maybe get you a price that's even better than what we think the fair market value is. Because again, if you price it right, you typically have healthy demand here, so you'll get maybe multiple offers. Still to this day, when sellers price right, they still are getting, in some cases, multiple offers. So, and when there's multiple offers, then I can go to work, right? I can use my negotiation skills to get you maybe, X amount higher than what maybe it's worth, because buyers need homes. There's still healthy demand here. So that's my recommendation to sellers. Be really thoughtful about the price. And then also, obviously, there's all of these condition discussions that we can have to prep your house for sale. But be really thoughtful about the price, because if you stretch too high in this market, usually you end up with less traffic, less offers, if any, and then you're dropping back down to that fair market price, and now you may have been on the market 30 or 60 days, and the market's changing. It could be going down a little further, so now maybe your property's technically worth more or worth less than it was 60 days ago, and also your property's been on the market 30 or 60 days now, so in this trending towards buyers market, you're probably not going to get offers at that, what we thought was fair market price 30, 60 days ago.
And that's likely due to the psychology of buyers, that they see a property that's not had a lot of offers, not had a lot of activity in 60 days, and even if it dropped, they may feel that there's some weakness on the seller's part, and that maybe even if they do make an offer, that they're going to come in and lowball you. Whereas a brand new property to the market is the psychology, I think, from a buyer is that, hey, we got to jump in on this while we can. If this is a property that we actually like and we want to buy, maybe we need to make an offer above list price, as long as this is something within reason that we think it's a pretty reasonably listed price. I don't know if that's kind of the same conclusion that you have.
I can go to work and I have leverage when we're on the market 7 days or less. I can encourage buyers to make better offers, because I can encourage them that there's healthy demand and that the seller is going to receive another offer very soon, if not already.
That there's been a lot of activity. A lot of activity is, which is true. Even if you don't know whether you're going to get the offers, a lot of activity signals to the buyer and the buyer's agent that, hey, get in while the getting's good.
Yeah, let's get this done. Let's just get it. Let's get it done, and let's make that offer clean and healthy, and then typically that benefits the seller for many reasons. You sit on the market for 30, 60 days. Now you're also having a discussion. Maybe you lock up the price you want, but now, to your point, buyer is going to do their inspection, and they know your property's been sitting on the market for 30, 60 days. So they know they might have a little bit more leverage in the inspection period. Whereas if your property's on the market less than 7 days, they know they may not have as much leverage during the inspection period. And so they may be less inclined, if we're on the market for 7 days or less, they may be less inclined to ask for concession. But 30, 60 days, in most cases, you're getting the call, hey, we found some things on the inspection, we want a concession of X. And that makes the deal more painful for the seller all the way through. So you typically want to hit the nail on the head with the price, so that way I can do what you've hired me to do, which is negotiate and drive the highest price for your property.
Yeah. Oh, well, great. That's great advice. Well, Larry, this has been absolutely wonderful. I really appreciate the time you spent with us. I think the audience has really gotten a lot of great information, some great tidbits that they can take with them, whether they're investing in property, whether they're going to be listing a property, probably or possibly buying a property, whether it be here in South Florida, where you have your brokerage, or elsewhere in the United States. So really want to thank you. Thanks for your time again, Larry. And what is the best contact information, which I know we'll put that in the comments section or in the description of the video, but how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can text, call, email. All that information will be in the video and down below in the description section. So feel free to reach out in any way you want.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Well, if you enjoyed this video, please like and comment on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. And thank you very much for watching.